Good morning, Year 10s. So, in today's lesson, we are going to practice our writing skills. And as you know, we've just finished our topic on the Earth's resources and the environment. And this topic comes with quite a lot of long answer questions. And for a lot of students, these can be quite scary because they're big 6 markers and they require you to evaluate information and kind of pull all your knowledge together and put it down in this big 6 mark question. And I'm going to teach you how to approach these kind of questions to make it easier for you. And once you've finished, you're going to take a picture of it and send it to me so I can mark it and see how you got on. And I'm going to give every single one of you individual feedback and tell you how you can improve to get even more marks, okay? Right.
Okay, we're going to have a look at question 1. So let's read the question first. Ethene is used to make polyethylene, and polyethylene is used to make plastic bags. The table below shows data from a life cycle assessment for plastic bags and a paper bag. So this is the table that we are going to work with. And then below it says that a company stated a life cycle assessment shows that using plastic bags has less environmental impact than using paper bags. Evaluate this statement using your knowledge and the information from the table above. So we will have to use the table to answer this question, and we are evaluating this statement. When a question is asking us to evaluate, we are looking at the pros and the cons of both the plastic and paper bag, and then usually we want to come to a conclusion as well. So you want to know whether the plastic bag has got a lesser environmental impact compared to the paper bag. Right, and the question also wants us to use our knowledge and the information. So not only are we using what's given to us in this table here, we also need to think about what we already know about plastic bags and paper bags and kind of apply everything that we've learned throughout this topic. Okay, so let's have a look at the actual table first. And this is a 6-mark question, by the way. Right, so let's have a look at the table. First, let's look at the raw materials. So a plastic bag is using crude oil or natural gas, whereas paper bags is using wood. So what do we already know about crude oil? Well, crude oil is a finite resource. And it's non-renewable.
As you probably remember, crude oil is the remains of ancient biomass, and it consists mainly of plankton that was buried in mud for like billions of years, and then this crude oil was formed. So we can't really reform it within our lifetime. That's why it's a non-renewable resource.
Whereas wood, you may probably know, wood comes from trees, and trees don't take that long to grow back, okay? So wood is a renewable resource. Yeah, so it's a renewable resource, and we can just plant more trees, which will grow, and we will get more wood within our lifetime. Okay, so let's have a look at the second part. So energy used in MJ, so megajoules. And a plastic bag uses 1.5 megajoules of energy to be produced, whereas a paper bag uses 1.7. So actually, a paper bag is using 0.2 megajoules less than a paper bag. So mass of solid waste in G, which means grams. So a plastic bag will produce 14 grams of waste per bag, whereas a paper bag will produce 50 grams. So this again produces more waste compared to a plastic bag, which is around 36 grams more. Okay, let's have a look at the mass of CO2 or carbon dioxide produced in kilograms. With a plastic bag, we've got 0.23 kilograms of CO2, and a paper bag produces 0.53 kilograms per bag. So again, actually, we've got 0.3 kilograms more CO2 produced compared to the plastic bag. And the last one, volume of fresh water used in dm cubed, so decimeters cubed, and a paper bag, as you can see, produces way more or uses way more water compared to a plastic bag. Right, so this is all of the information that we get from the table. However, what else do we already know about plastic and paper bags from what we've already learned? Well, I remember that paper bags, they are biodegradable. And even though paper bags, they produce a lot more carbon dioxide per bag, if we plant trees, we can offset this carbon dioxide that's been released into the atmosphere, because the trees will reabsorb the carbon dioxide during photosynthesis. Okay, so using all of this information, I'm going to start writing my 6-mark answer. So obviously, again, this is an evaluate question. So we want to talk about the pros and cons of both plastic bags and paper bags and compare them to. And then we want to come to a conclusion and see whether it's true that plastic bags have got less of an environmental impact compared to paper bags. Right, so my first point is going to be about the raw material, that plastic bags are made up of crude oil, which is a finite resource and non-renewable, whereas paper bags are made up of wood, which is a renewable resource. Okay, so here's our first point, and it compares both plastic and paper bags, and it really is a point kind of against the statement saying that actually paper bags are better because they're using renewable resources. However, using the table, so obviously we've got these 2 points covered, but using the table, all of the other points are basically saying that plastic bags are better because they are using less energy, they are producing less waste, and also producing less CO2 and using less water compared to paper bags. So I'm not going to talk about every single one of these points because it is a 6-mark question and I don't have to write about everything. It's more important to kind of bring the point across. I'm probably going to choose about 2 of those and add some of my own knowledge that's not kind of mentioned in the table, and that's where I will get some of my other marks from. Okay, so let's have a go at this. So I'm going to link this paragraph with the word however, kind of stating that I'm going to give an alternative point of view which supports plastic bags being better. Okay, so I've now talked about So I've now talked about these 2 points here as well, and if you can see, it's very important that you actually say that it's compared to plastic bags. Okay, so I'm talking about paper bags, but how does that compare to plastic bags, right? So that's what we're trying to find, which one is has got a lesser environmental impact. So we need to have both bags in mind when we're talking about this. So for this last part, I would like to add some of my own knowledge that's not mentioned in the question. Let's say that we're using this point here, that we can offset CO2 by planting more trees. Okay, so I can make a point saying that paper bags create 0.3 kilograms more CO2 than plastic bags, which is covered here, but we can offset it using more trees. We can offset it by planting more trees. So I'm going to link the next sentence with the word additionally, because I'm adding another point. Okay, so you can see that I've talked about paper bags creating 0.3 kilograms more CO2 than plastic bags. Again, make sure you compare them. However, you can offset it by planting more trees, which will use the CO2 that's being released by photosynthesis. So that means that they're reducing carbon dioxide in the atmosphere by photosynthesis. And also, it's important to mention to use those figures from the graph. So again, here I've used 0.3 kilograms and 0.2 megajoules and 36 grams of waste. Okay, so this is the main part of our answer, but because again it's an evaluate question, we need to come to a conclusion. And with this question, actually it doesn't really matter what you say as long as it is backed up by what you've written. So if you think that plastic bags are better, then you can say that you agree with the statement because, for example, non-renewability is less important than all of these other factors shown in the table. Or you can say that you disagree with it because all of these are not as important as the raw material being renewable. Or you can also say that you can't really agree or disagree with the statement because you don't have enough data to make up your mind, because obviously you've got a lot of points for and against paper and plastic bags. Okay, so I'm just going to go with the agree statement, but again, as long as you can back up your answer, any answer would be accepted. Let's summarize. So we've got a statement about plastic and paper bags and about their raw material, saying that one of them is non-renewable and the other one is renewable. And then we are comparing all of the manufacturing processes. So how paper bags are using more energy, create more waste, and they emit more CO2 gases during the manufacturing process. And we've backed it up with our data, which I've highlighted here in green. And with each statement, we said that how it compares to how they both compare to each other. And then, very important, at the very end, you have to give a conclusion. Do you agree? Do you disagree with the statement from this question? Okay, so always refer back to the question.
Okay, now it's your turn to answer a 6-mark question. So we will be going through this together. So we're going to read the question and then I'm going to give you some time to think about it and plan out your answer. And then at the end, I'm going to give you about 10 minutes to actually write the answer in 4 sentences. Okay, and these 6-mark questions are really important because they really enable you to show off all of your knowledge that you've gained. Okay, Once you've answered your 6-mark question, I would like you to take a picture of it and send it to me on ePraise. And this is for me to mark it and give you individual feedback, so you know any gaps in your knowledge and see how you can improve your work to make it as good as it can be. Okay? So at the top of the question, it says that in this question, you will be assessed on using good English, organising information clearly, and specialist terms where appropriate. So all of these sciencey words that we learn in lessons are really important and make you sound more like a scientist when you are trying to present your ideas. You need to be as clear as possible and not waffle around, okay? So a lot of the time when we are writing these 6-mark questions, we're trying to show off everything we know, and then we kind of forget the main point that we're trying to bring across. So all we need to remember is to be concise and clear and use scientific terms to explain ourselves. So the question says, there are millions of plastic bags in use. After use, most of these plastic bags are buried in landfill sites. The amount sent to landfill could be reduced if the plastic bags could be reused, could be recycled by melting and making them into new plastic products, and could be burned to release energy. So use this information above and your knowledge and understanding to give the positive and negative environmental impacts of using these methods to reduce the amount of plastic bags sent to landfill. Okay, so that was quite a lot of information. So the first thing I would recommend for you to do, and I'm going to do it on the screen now, is to highlight the most important things. So we are talking about plastic bags and wanting to reduce the amount of plastic bags by either reusing them, recycling them, or burning them. And the main point of this question is to give the positive and negative environmental impacts of using these methods of reducing the amount of plastic bags sent to landfill. So in other words, it's saying what's the pro and cons of either of these 3 methods of reducing plastic bags in landfill. So this is where you come in now. So for each of these, tell me a good thing about it and a bad thing about it, okay? So I'm gonna give you 5 minutes to come up with a pro and con for all of these 3 points, okay? So I'm gonna put the timer up now and I want you to think of the answer or think of things you could write about.
Okay, so hopefully you've got something written down. I'm going to help you out here as well. So I'm going to show you the key points that I've got. So for reusing plastic bags, a positive for that would be that it saves raw material. So we know that we get plastics from crude oil, and reusing plastic bags will save using extra crude oil and will save the energy to extract it. So that's point number 1 here for a positive. And then the negative would be that even though you're reusing the plastic bag, eventually it will probably still end up in landfill, right? So you can't keep reusing it forever because it might tear or get lost, who knows? So eventually it will probably still end up in landfill. Right, so for recycling then, a positive thing of recycling is that it can be turned into new things. So it will save, again, the raw material, and it will cut down on the CO2 emissions from extracting the raw materials. However, just like with anything else, even recycling has got its negatives. One of this would be that bringing or transporting things to recycling centres will still release a lot of CO2 emissions, right? So obviously, if we are putting things in the bin and they're being collected by big trucks, these trucks will release CO2 gas as they are transporting. For the third point, burning plastic, the positive is that it releases energy, right? So we can use this energy for heating buildings, for example, or generating electricity. You can probably imagine that burning plastic will release lots of toxic gases into the atmosphere and also increase the amounts of carbon dioxide that's released as well. So that's a big drawback of burning it. Your task now is to answer the 6-mark question, and to get full marks, you will have to evaluate every single one of these 3 points, so reusing, recycling, and burning plastic bags. Okay, so this is up to you now. I think you should probably spend maximum of 10 minutes to answer this question. Obviously, in an exam, for a 6-mark question, you would expect to take about 6 to 8 minutes all together to answer a question. But obviously, we're just practicing this now, so take 10 minutes to write your 6-mark answer, okay? Use all of the points that we've just discussed up here, and obviously please feel free to use your own points that you've come up with, and take a picture of your answer and send it back to me. Okay, so I'm going to set the timer for 10 minutes, and I'm excited to see all of your answers.